Democrats will likely be in charge of congressional redistricting in New York. Republican and Democratic commissioners were not able to agree on district lines. Lawmakers rejected two separate sets of maps presented by the commissioners. That independent group will have one more opportunity to come to a consensus on redistricting before it's in the hands of the state's Democratic-led legislature. Wall Street Journal reporter Jimmy Vielkind is with me now for more. Jimmy, welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. So New York is, of course, a staunchly Democratic state. Why could the legislature gaining control of redistricting actually matter for the Democratic Party?
Well, for the first time in more than 50 years, Democrats would control the process. While we think of New York as a deep blue state, hasn't voted for a Republican president since Ronald Reagan, Republicans actually controlled the upper chamber of the state legislature, the state Senate, in some form through 2018. So Democrats feel that they have an opportunity here for the once-a-decade process of redistricting to make considerable gains. They're also starting with some opportunities. Right now, New York's 27-member delegation has 8 Republicans and 19 Democrats. Democrats I spoke to said that they could envision a scenario where there are 22 or 23 Democratic districts, reducing the number of Republicans and giving the party a boost as it fights in a closely divided House for control.
Well, both Republicans and Democrats, of course, accuse each other of using redistricting to advance their own partisan advantage. How does this proposal potentially play into that narrative or not?
Well, redistricting is something that is inherently political despite the protestations of the people who are involved in it. For what it's worth, Democratic leaders of the state Senate and Assembly here in Albany have said that they will let the process play out. They say that there are constitutional restrictions here in New York that would prevent them from drawing lines to advantage any one individual or party. But still, there are changes that can be made in certain districts that would give the party an edge. One thing that's mentioned again by strategists is the 11th district, currently held by Republican Nicole Malliotakis. She won that seat last year from Max Rose, a Democrat. And party leaders say that if you change neighborhoods in heavily Democratic Brooklyn that are part of the district, you could give that party an advantage. Ms. Malliotakis, when we asked for comment, did not respond.
Right. She represents Staten Island. But I wonder what other areas, Jimmy, of New York actually stand to see the largest changes in representation should Democrats have final say over the maps?
Well, Elaine, this year the state's congressional delegation is shrinking yet again from 27 to 26 members, and most of the population loss that has occurred in New York over the last decade, or rather I should say the lack of population gain, has happened in upstate areas rather than downstate areas. We've also seen the retirement of 2 incumbent upstate representatives, Tom Reed from the Southern Tier, a Republican, and just last week, John Katko, a Republican from the Syracuse area, announced that he would not be seeking another term. That should leave lots of territory open for a rejiggering of district lines around what are generally more heavily Democratic upstate cities like Rochester, Syracuse, and Utica, as opposed to more rural areas which have proven to be fertile vote-getting ground for Republicans.
All right, well, let's take a step back for a moment. Republicans control more state legislatures across the country than Democrats and are responsible for drawing more maps. How might that impact the upcoming midterm elections, broadly speaking?
Well, it's an interesting question because while Republicans have greater control, they've had that control for a longer period of time. In many instances, they're essentially locking in gains that have already been they're essentially locking in gains that have already been in existence for the most recent election cycles. By contrast, Democrats are working on fertile ground. In the instance of New York, our most recent congressional maps were drawn by a federal court in 2012, where they really have the opportunity to, if they choose, gerrymander for some of the first times. A Wall Street Journal analysis of redistricting has concluded that there are 116 districts so far that heavily tilt toward Democrats, which is an increase of 3, while there are 84 districts that will tilt heavily toward the GOP, an increase of 12. This analysis is based on President Biden and Trump's relative returns in the last election cycle, And that's going to lead to a relatively even split. Though, of course, we have many unknowns to play out. New York's process still has weeks, if not at least more than a month, to go before we finally see lines that have a chance of being enacted. And then there's litigation. We know that court in Ohio has challenged and thrown out maps there. And if there's past this prologue, there will be lawsuits in New York that could seriously impact whatever the final lines are.
All right, Jimmy Vielkind. Jimmy, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.